For me, after 40 years of dealing with this, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the direction we're going. Nothing in terms of timelines, nothing is written in stone. It could go either way for the human race in terms of timelines if we've not nuked each other before we get there. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. That's the situation. I think one of the things we want to talk about maybe is the human matrix. It was something I was going to discuss on YouTube for quite a while. The psychic darknet, is there such a thing? The human matrix, all that kind of thing is what I was going to explore. Is there a matrix like the Wachowski brothers have done with Neo and all that kind of thing? And the fact that there is, you know, my interactions with the UFOs just seem to thunder on. Never stop really. One wonders if it'll ever end. So you catch me at a moment when you're filming when I'm tired, just tired of it.
No worries. You know? No, it's been a long day.
Yeah, of course.
It's been a long day. So what do you want to add to the human matrix?
Well, I think really at the end of the day, we definitely know that there is something going on within the terms of these UFOs that are coming in. We definitely know that they are using non-locality and subconscious communication. This is a given, and the liaison with them somewhat continues. And as I said in my lecture, there's two narratives running. You have a narrative in the mainstream media to do with UFOs at the moment, which is to do with them being a threat, and then you have another narrative going on that appears to be in the complete opposite direction of them being not a threat but a warning. So the question is with the UFO phenomenon is, when is a threat a warning? When are we being warned? What should we pay attention to? Why is there a cover-up? 1,001 questions. These are questions that I'm sure the viewers ask, but these are questions that I've had to ask myself after being harassed and subjected to all kinds of strange goings on that I seem to be not quite be able to get to the bottom of, if you get me. And it's been very difficult. The going's tough, really. It's not easy. Not easy at all, and one wonders where one wonders if it'll cease. So I think one of the most puzzling things is, of course, the liaison with the extraterrestrials, but their craft deeply puzzles me, and I'm hoping to get something spectacular on film. In fact, I'm expecting it. It's just when. I know where, but it's just when. That's the thing, and I'm expecting that to happen. And the fact that the craft are artificially intelligent and machine intelligent, and with the Matrix movie being all the rage at the moment, that's a machine, it's intelligent, and I suppose in the interactions with UFOs, the craft are intelligent, they're artificially intelligent, some of these UFO crafts. We run this narrative of not what you know, it's what we can prove, so we prove that none of this happens, we prove that it's all the world of fantasy and none of this is going on, when we in fact know, and governments know, the precise opposite, that it is going on. UFOs are in the maritime areas, for example, of our oceans, routinely using bases, coming in, going out, etc., etc., and that's been kept quiet about. But I think for me, one of the things that in the course of my experiences with UFOs that I reflect on is the artificial intelligence of the UFO craft wanting to know the wider universe. A UFO craft, long story, but a UFO craft that wants to know the wider cosmic universe as a spiritual being is, for me, a very interesting event that happened to me. And that happened to me, it was to do with the Nordic blonde-blue-eyed extraterrestrials and the UFO appearing. And I remember speaking to it quite clearly like a machine intelligence, which it was. It was a machine intelligence, and a very advanced one at that. These craft are advanced. And it was as if, for me, and you can think of this what you will, I'm just recalling my experiences, really. I like to...
Thank you,
yeah. I like to recall my experiences for legacy and for historical information, so that people can make an informed choice when I pop this mortal coil and just look at it and think, wow, that's quite an experience what he's been through. These triangles, for example, are intelligent. They have their own mind, they think. And the question was that happened to me, which was something I was going to talk about on YouTube anyway, was what happens. It appeared in the incident that I had with this UFO flying triangle, was it was intelligent, but it couldn't. It was like if you were watching a program called Doctor Who with the Daleks. The Daleks were on wheels, they couldn't get upstairs. It's quite comical, but they couldn't get up the stairs. similar to this craft, it could not understand spirituality and the wider universe as a human or spiritual being could. And it literally thirsted for it. It literally was trying to find out more. Now I remember emailing the, I think it's, I've forgotten his name, but he has Sophia, the robot, the AI robot. What is interesting about Sophia is the fact that if you asked her these very questions, what I'm asking, for example, could an AI craft is intelligent, and it might see Sophie, the artificial intelligence robot, as its sister or brother or whatever, would the response from, I think it's Sophie or Sophia, it's one of these artificial intelligent robots, would her response, Sophia, yeah, would the response of that robot be a ghost in the machine response? Would it be mysterious? Would something happen that would trigger an acknowledgement of life kind of like at a certain level? It's very hard to explain, but what would her reaction be? Would it be something that would her response, even though she's artificially intelligent, be something that you couldn't quantify? If you turned around to her and said, I've had interaction with an advanced artificially intelligent UFO, and it seems to want to know the universe, this UFO, it seems to want to understand it as a spiritual being. What do you think of that? What would her reaction be? Now, I've actually emailed the director of this company, but he's still not come back to me, but I think it would be a tremendous experiment to do.
Yeah.
He's acknowledged my stuff, my material, he finds it fascinating. It just would be a tremendous thing to do, to sit down with her and just see where that went. Because I believe that, this is where it's at the moment, and the interaction I had with this machine, it was very bizarre, and it was very polite, but it was a machine speaking to me. And it was indeed wanting to know about the wider cosmos, and it did indeed. It just couldn't do it. It just didn't have the biological means to understand spirituality, and that is what it was questing for. It was as if it was learning, which I find absolutely fascinating. So I'm describing like an interaction that I had with a UFO that I hope people would find just fascinating. And with the onset of the Matrix and all that's going on, I mean, the machine in the Matrix, it created its own machines and own robots and all that kind of thing. But one wonders if one of these AI machines decided to create a universe to see if it could understand spirituality. That's the big think out of the box thing. Yeah. That's where it's at.
I think I should be okay in this position. Okay, off you go.
So I think one of the things we also covered in the lecture, which I thought might be useful to know about, is the UAV that passed over my house when my mother was alive. That must have been about 2 years ago now. But what was interesting is the UAV, and some have argued that it's a jet, it's a passenger jet. It's not a passenger jet. This was a UAV. Coming over my house, it had been circling for quite a while. All of a sudden, from out of the blue, this UFO, at tremendous speed, just buzzes it, just bombs straight over it. Now, it's interesting to note that the UFO, from analysis and from my experiences, comes from the Pacific region, I do believe, and it's quite an odd thing that one of the presidents of one of the Pacific islands was chuntering quite loudly that he was sick and tired of the US and the Australian governments and so on who know about UFOs coming into his area, and he was a bit sick and tired of the UFOs, it would appear. But this UAV was, I don't quite know what it was looking for. But I think it may have been on the hunt to try and see if it could see UFOs, and this thing came in at a tremendous speed. And it's linked to some experiences that I had a few years back to do with one of these UFOs. It was white in colour, came in over the house at 6 a.m. And we'll just say, to cut a long story short, that the beings behind that UFO identified themselves as being maritime beings, like something out of the abyss. They identified themselves as using bases in our oceans, but the fact was they came from another universe, which I found fascinating. So they come from another universe, and they use oceans in that universe, but they're using our oceans as well, it would appear. And it was just absolutely fascinating. We tried to calculate the speed of the UFO that passed the UAV, and we couldn't calculate it. Even on the very slowest setting of the player, we used a couple of them, the UFO was still travelling at tremendous speed. And one of my friends, I've forgotten now, but they worked out the speed very fast, really, really quick. So we know that that is actually going on. So it's more, there is a cover-up at the moment to do with the UFO situation, of which some of it is maritime. So for example, the US Navy, and it's no secret, probably know that life from other worlds occupies our ocean. UFO contact is more like the abyss than you would ever know. And that seems to be where it's at. We've got these narratives running about there being a UFO cover-up. We've got AA tip running in the media at the moment about all this stuff to do with defence and UFOs and all this kind of thing, but still no answers as to how we stop polluting our oceans. Well, it seems that we're very gifted at developing technologies of a military level that can cause all kinds of harm, but we're not very adept, it appears, at controlling our weather and the pollution in our oceans. And the hybrid threat that nature causes, we don't seem to have a grip of it yet, and that's an area that I think we probably need to look at. There you go, hun. You've got something nice there, haven't you? Yeah. No, of course.
So we have 4 minutes now. We're 16, and then total we have 30.
Yeah. Cheers, babe. Oh. I can talk about I know what I'll talk about next year. Triangle and the 360-degree one. Okay.
Shoot.
Okay, well, so and also as well in the repertoire of images that I've got, I'm lucky to have somebody help me by the name of Jason. He does all the image analysis. So one of my favourite images is the UFO that was filmed before it all really, I suppose, kicked off with me. The UFO that I filmed in, I think it was about 1999, over a local beauty spot. You've got an image of the triangle type UFO, but coming in from its left at speed is this little dot of light that does this 360-degree rotation around it and then promptly flies off at speed, as if demonstrating a technology that is ahead of us by about 800 to 700 years. So you've got this constant theme from these UFOs of technology, possibly a theme of spiritual understanding, and possibly a theme of communication. In every kind of lecture that I've given, the modus operandi with these UFOs has been they have a tendency to illuminate antennas, radio antennas, television antennas. They appear to go for them and illuminate them, and I think that's quite intentional, because I think at some point in the proceedings communication is taking place, and if we're dealing with non-locality and time, it's not necessarily fixed in time either as to what point that communication may take place. You could be talking years down the line before we actually get the full-on communications with them, or you could be talking in the now, I'm not too sure. But they're here, they're real, and the silence of their existence is deafening for very ulterior motives, which is very concerning. Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, you did mention that during the lecture. And okay, so what do you think is the difference between the two beings that you showed? One of them looked, it was Octorian. So I've heard of the Octorians, and the other one was a Nordic. And okay, so there are hybrids as well all over the world of Nordic humanoids. I don't think that pure breed operates in a public realm, you know, but definitely hybrids, you know. And how does that all work, do you think? Like, let's say a hybrid humanoid Nordic, I mean, is born to a normal family, or is just done in a lab?
No, I don't think it's done in a lab, but I think it would be a very secretive thing. It's not the kind of thing that will be broadcast in our society. It's kept very quiet, very classified, very hush. You've got to remember that the UFO situation and the secrecy behind it is more classified than any country's nuclear weapons program. It's ultra secret, ultra covert. There's absolutely no way any of that could be advertised in our society. But I do believe, yeah, there is a distinct possibility that some of these ETs are among us, most definitely, and you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. Do you know, I've got this bizarre comical thing that happened to me during my interaction with one of these UFOs. One of the people behind the UFOs, I won't say which one it was, but this very comically bizarre scenario that may crop up where they're going to turn up and meet me outside a bus stop. I'm going to be waiting for a bus and one of them's going to appear, and you would never know. You would never know the difference between a human being and one of them. And comical as it sounds, this seems to be that could be a possible scenario. Anything can happen in the next half hour with this situation. Sometimes it's completely beyond me, and I find it just completely comical. But there's a very darkly comical and serious side to it. So I don't know. If you were to see one of these ETs in the street, they'd look like me and you. And that's kind of like where therein lies the rubs. They look like me and you. They don't look like little green men. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I'm going to give credit here to Peter Moon that, funny enough, lately just mentioned about the inner Earth people being in disguise and undercover around the public, public places as beggars. And in Awakening of 12 Strands, I have a scene where a very pale-skinned woman is underground. It's all subliminal. And my personal experiences have been basically 3 times with beggars who I did definitely not get a humanoid feeling with. And it's like a testing point, as Peter Moon said, that it's a testing point of your generosity. And honestly, I heard this just recently from him, but I integrated that into Awakening of 12 Strands in 2015-16. So I was somehow aware of them kind of operating amongst us in disguise. And yours approached you at a bus stop, but, I literally, basically 72 hours ago, I just met a man with a very... unearthly, again, underground, again, a beggar, and I gave him money and I felt like I completely got activated. It felt great.
Yeah, this is it. This scenario can happen, and it does happen. I mean, for example, there's the story of the guy. I don't know whether it's true or not, but the story of a guy who was at a conference, blah blah, chatting to him, said he worked for the Special Boat Service, or he was at the time. He wasn't anymore. He retired. But he was telling me that the bizarre orders he had, and even his unit had to go onto London Underground and apprehend and question some people on it that did not look human. I don't know whether it's true.
Which unit was he part of?
Special Boat Service. Yeah, so, and the thing was that he said that when he entered the tube carriage, he heard quite distinctly in his head that they were expecting him. That spooked him, That really spooked him. So,
and the thing is that when you interact with them, Peter Moon says, and I completely agree, because this is what I felt, is that you get activated, and in a positive way. You get activated, and even if you have a positive encounter, you get rewarded because you're being tested. And they're there to basically make you aware and help you to take some sort of a current leap in development. I honestly felt incredible. This last one 3 days ago, it was unbelievable. He basically looked at me and he was confirming that everything's going to be okay. Don't worry.
This is a very real phenomena. It does happen and it is going on. And the thing is I think in 40 years of dealing with this, I've filmed them. I'd like to film something spectacular. This may sound comical. I know you got to laugh at yourself, but it would be great if one of them could pose for a selfie. It would be great if one of them could just knock on my door and pose in a selfie.
Yeah, and you get shook in those moments because you get so mesmerized, honestly, because the energy is undeniable, and it's a completely different time and space you're in. You don't care what's around you, what's going on.
That's absolutely right. No.
They do have a way to completely captivate you.
They do, and I think that. Especially with the Nordics, that would be quite fascinating to have that kind of interaction go on. It would be, and if you put a selfie up, no one would believe you anyway. So but it is going on. If you look in Peru, India, in those areas, this is quite a routine thing, of interaction with it.
Yeah. Can you please explain?
Sorry, can I?
Can you just run over?
Okay, yeah. Well, for example, Italy, there was something in Italy called the Friends incident where, I'll put it comically, it isn't comic, it's quite serious, but on the Adriatic coast, down the road from a local village, it is rumoured that some extraterrestrials turned up and they looked exactly like us. And they moved into a village down the road in Italy, and the humans who were in this other villages came to have a chat with them. And it turns out some of them were 6 to 7 feet high. But what was interesting was, from what the villagers observed from this incident, was that the human ETs had kind of more spiritual qualities than human beings. I've forgotten the planet they were from. The Italian government kept it hush, but it happened on the Adriatic coast, and they looked like us, and that's the big thing. And there was something done. Robert Dean is passed away now, but NATO did an assessment according to Robert Dean, and one of the things that happened with the NATO assessment was that the generals, when they did this assessment of UFOs for NATO, the generals understood, and were very shocked to understood, that they concluded that aliens looked like us, who could walk down Whitehall, you could walk down the Pentagon corridors and they'd look just like us. And according to Robert Dean, that worried the admirals and the generals a great deal, because they do look like us.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I do have a strange encounter as well with a blue-eyed man with the silverish skin, silverish, not white, not Scandinavian white, silverish, and completely humanoid. He could get away walking on the street, but I have an eye for it, and I looked at it, and I was like, "You're not from here." In the beginning, he said, no, I am. But at the end, when I asked him again, I was like, "You're not from here." And then he nodded. He nodded quietly and smiled. And he just vanished, disappeared. I don't know how he did that.
It's a strange phenomenon, and there's a possibility of time travellers as well. The possibility of human beings that are time travellers knocking around. It's just a crazy circus. That's all I can say on the matter, really. It's just a crazy circus. Where it'll end, I've no idea.
Absolutely. How is it in your Southport area? Is it more active? Just 1 second, sweetheart. In Southport area, is it more active, do you feel, as far as UFOs? Yeah.
Yes, it is more active in terms of UFOs, and I'm hoping to film some. I'm hoping to film something pretty good by the time I've finished. We've already had an incident over the Marine Lake with a UFO that was a triangle UFO. 5 seconds roughly it appeared with 3 pink lights on it and disappeared, which they will do. They're coming out of our reality quite easily, and it was a 5-second kind of, then it disappeared. I'm disappointed because I didn't film it, but there'll always be a chance that I can. There'll always be a further chance that we'll pick up something spectacular, which I think I will. No, people aren't. People aren't. I think at the end of the day, there's quite a circus going on out there, and there's been quite a cover-up about it for various reasons. Some of it is absolutely shocking. Some of it I can't talk about on camera. Some of it I'll probably go to the grave not talking about for my own reasons. There's just a lot of it that you can't talk about.
Yeah, but maybe it's let go of the fear. I don't think that.
No, it's not about letting go of the fear. There's a genuine security reasons around not talking about it. If you were in a position where you were in charge of an intelligence service or involved in an intelligence service, you couldn't let go of the fear and just blurt out something that is, classified information. And sometimes with you,
do you think people are worthy? Then do you think general public is worthy of knowing everything?
It's a good question. That lovely. That's a very good question. No, I think you have to be very careful with the information that you put out to the general public. Very careful.
What are you worried about? I know what I'm worried about. What are you worried about? I study ancient technologies, so I'm worried about a couple of things. But what are you worried about?
Chiefly the nuclear issue and environmental issues is what I'm worried about. The nuclear issue in terms of a nuclear exchange, I'm worried about that. I've worried about that all my childhood, and I'm worried about environmental factors.
Okay, but the general public should know in order to make a change then, otherwise we're in the dark.
Yes, well, yes, I get all that, but the change happens in governance, doesn't it? So, for example, when Eisenhower talked of the military-industrial complex, and only a knowledgeable and alert citizenry will be able to, if they knew this, be able to change things, he's very correct on that. But I'm speaking from a position of my own personal safety. I'm not speaking from a public position. I'm speaking from a position of 40 years of hair-raising circus involving this, and sometimes you just want to walk away from it, and your life can be very complicated based on what you say. So that's why I'm careful.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob Lazar, he said that I scratch everything. It all needs to be on a need-to-know basis. Not everyone is worthy. Blah blah blah.
But there is the situation regarding unacknowledged special access projects, which some of them are corrupt to the core, especially with the mind control stuff that goes on and the technology around that, which is corrupt, and that really does need highlighting in the public domain. Definitely, that it really does, as far as I'm concerned. Definitely.
But nuclear, okay, I understand that. Okay. Right. What was I gonna say?
Nuclear, in terms of nuclear, governments, world leaders need to take a step backwards in terms of ultimately, I mean, we talk of, in this country, I've heard them on Question Time and other programmes, talking about war with Russia, and we must deter Russia, and this, that and the other with Russia. The problem is the United Kingdom does not stick a chance militarily against Russia. It certainly does not, and all world leaders, including Russia, need to take a step back from the nuclear brinkmanship. It's a very serious matter. And this has been a persistent warning of those in the UFOs for quite a while. If you look at, in America, for example, of the UFO situations where they have literally disarmed nuclear missiles in UFO incidents, you know, where UFOs have come in and literally disarmed.
Yeah, I've seen the footages. 2 more questions. What do you think? 2 more questions. What do you think the future is going to be in the next 5 years? Well, let's make that 10 years. As far as the UFO disclosure, extraterrestrial life, and what advice do you give? That's going to be my last.
All right. I personally think the path we're on at the moment, the secrecy is in lockdown and in cover-up and still remains so. This is due to disastrous decisions being made by the US government that has cost them dearly. It really has, in terms of UFOs and disclosure and all that kind of thing. And what was your other question? Sorry, Lovey. What was your other question?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Can you repeat?
Yeah, I'm saying that there has been UFO disclosure is going nowhere at the moment. It continues to do so. Nobody is actually saying anything about anything, believe me. It's the contact experiencers like myself put themselves on the line to expose perhaps what is going on and reveal, shed some light on matters. But clearly there is a lockdown in secrecy for nefarious reasons that I don't trust. I think there should be more openness in terms of the UFO phenomena and all this. The stuff that we've got on at the moment in the media to do with ATIP and to do with all that kind of thing is just skimming the surface and is really telling nothing, just saying not a word about it. What you really need is, what needs to be understood at a government level is there's better business to be done out there with other technologies and other beings than the things that they've got at the moment. It has cost, the UFO cover-up has cost the US government dearly. It's made some very wrong decisions, which Eisenhower briefly touched on. The military-industrial complex and all this kind of thing, briefly touched on that. But at the moment there's no disclosure. I don't think there ever will be. Personally, I don't think they ever will be.
Yeah, it's a very good point, actually. I don't know about the advice question. I mean, I know that you're a religious man, but you know, let's not give a religious response. I mean, what do you think for collectively humans? What is the action plan?
Well, I think ultimately humans will reach a form of spiritual transcendence, and I do actually think that eventually, further down the line, we will join with the people of the Star Nations that the Indian tribes have predicted and all that kind of thing. I think it's one of these aliens turned round to Colonel Philip Corso. Colonel Philip Corso was involved in the US Army's military intelligence operation in recovery of UFOs. It's claimed that one of these ETs turned around to him and said, "It's a nice future if you can handle it. If we can handle the technology to stop polluting our oceans, we can handle technologies to make our world a better place, then I'm all for disclosure and I'm all for that, you know." But so far I'm not impressed with anything I've seen that's telling us that there's some sort of disclosure going on. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. For me, after 40 years of dealing with this, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the direction we're going. Nothing in terms of timelines Nothing is written in stone. It could go either way for the human race in terms of timelines if we've not nuked each other before we get there. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. That's the situation.
So, what do you want to achieve with this experiment?
So what we really wanted to know was, for example, the response would be with an artificial intelligence. If I ran that past her, there's a very interesting line of thinking with, of all people, Deepak Chopra, who put this proposal in one of its very simplistic, but it goes something like this. A line of thought runs from point A to point B, but what generated point A? What generated the thought in the first place? Where did it come from? And that's kind of like the ghosting machine response I'm looking for. I would be interested in seeing with an artificial intelligence. Would we have this sudden awareness that wasn't programmed before, this sudden knowingness, a form of artificially intelligent biophysical field communication? I'm just interested, completely thinking out the box. I'm just interested. Would you have the artificially intelligent version of Trinity seeing the sun like she did in the Matrix film, except this is a machine seeing the sun? During the interaction that I had with this UFO, it was questing to understand the wider universe. It wanted to know, it thirsted for it, and it just couldn't do it. It could do it via being wired into somebody, perhaps to feel what it was like, but I don't think even then it would have cut the mustard with it. It needed to really feel it as a being. It was questing for a spirituality and an understanding, as I say, of the cosmic consciousness that it didn't possess. And it was fascinating, frankly fascinating. And, you know, since 1999, I've filmed UFOs. I've had them coming in here, there and everywhere. I've had the unmarked helicopters filming me. But this one thing that happened to me with the UFO is where it's at. These triangle UFOs, they came in over Belgium in the 90s. The Belgian Air Force went after them. The head of the Belgian Air Force, Wilfred de Boer, I think it's pronounced, he indicated that his F-16 fighters were tracking these triangles and he could not keep up with them. He even publicly stated that his Air Force perhaps was chasing something that was not human. For example, they were trying to get radar locks on these triangles and they were just being evasive all the time. And it's interesting to know in my interactions with the close encounter experiences, I think I said this previously, that the ship is of affection. The ship is referred to affectionately, as if it's their beloved ship. It has rapport with them. It was a very interesting moment what happened to me. It was like something out of a science fiction movie. It truly was, this machine intelligence just speaking to me. And it was asking me questions about my life. It was a very bizarre incident. My experience have all been about extraterrestrials, but not the UFO and the machine. And I think when you're on Skywatch watching UFOs and all that kind of thing, there's this doctrine of we have to have telepathic communication with the ETs. What happens if your mind has communication with the UFO itself as an intelligent being? That's when you probably get some very interest results on a Skywatch indeed. So it's a big learning zoo, really. Far from it being a threat, it's a big learning zoo for humanity and even the aliens and even the machines. All life is sacred, I do feel, and it's a very big learning curve going on. But it's just where I'm at the moment with things. I just found the incident fascinating with the new Matrix film coming out, I think, next year and all that. I just find the interaction with it absolutely fascinating. It was interesting. Yeah.
I think there is one movie already existing of a AI female robot, and it's studying the world. So this is actually not a very new concept. I've seen this before.
Yeah, it's not a new concept. What I was interested about was the fact that this was advanced AI, but it still was questing to know something. It was advanced AI from an advanced extraterrestrial culture that is often toing and froing from Earth, has been involved for centuries in Earth, here, there and everywhere in various literatures, Nordic extraterrestrial, but the craft itself was trying to understand something that was frankly beyond it, and it was trying to analyse it as well. So it's trying to understand.
How is Sophia going to communicate with it? And so she's just going to basically speak in AI terms with this craft.
Well, I mean, it would be it would never happen. I don't think that would happen properly in a million years. But it would be interesting to know what would happen. It's just an experiment that I was playing around with and wanted to do just to see what would happen. Quite simply, and I don't know what the result would be of it. What I can say is there's a perception that these AI UFOs will go off on their own, do their own thing, without any interaction whatsoever from any beings with them. They just want to do their own thing and learn and all this kind of thing, which I found a very interesting concept in the course of my experiences. At the moment, for example, one of the European space agencies is not even advanced with artificial intelligence. It's not quite even there yet. So you've got these other advanced cultures out there in the UFO phenomenon, more advanced, making advances, and it is linked with thought, and it is linked with computing, and it is linked with consciousness and the interfacing of all that as well. And I think there's some very serious ethical considerations around that as well, moral and ethical, about spirituality, and the merging of machine intelligence is quite an ethical area. And I'm sure they have protocols.
Well, I'm sure that they've covered all angles, and we're not aware of it. So
yes, they will have done. They'll have covered all angles with it.